Purim trivia, and from none other this time than Herodotus, the father of history himself. As many people know, the Greek historian Herodotus is one of our main historical sources for the time period of the Persian Empire during the story of Esther, because unfortunately, the Persians themselves didn't preserve many of their records. Now, one of the interesting things that Herodotus says that is kind of related to the book of Esther is that in his histories, book number 1, section 133, he tells us that the Persians have a love of wine. They have a strong wine culture, kind of like the way we think of Bavarians with their Oktoberfest beer culture. You know what I mean? Maybe not. Anyway, so Herodotus writes that the Persians were so indulged in wine that they had to make special cultural rules not to vomit or urinate in front of other people. Because that's the thing, I guess. And he also tells us that Persians were known, had a common custom to make their most important decisions while they were drunk off their face. And then they would debate it among each other. And then he tells them, and afterwards, when they're sober, they would analyze their conclusions and they would see if they still stand. Now, this, of course, reminds us of the book of Esther, which in the first chapter, we see that the king has a 7-day feast. Herodotus also tells that Xerxes Ahasuerus loved to throw some massive feast. He had and on the 7th day of his feast, we read in the Megillah that King Ahasuerus ketov leif hamelach bayayin. The heart of the king was merry with wine, meaning he was drunk off his face. And what does he then? The same verse tells us he brings in his advisors. And then the whole story of Vashti happens, that he embarrasses him in public. And then, just like Herodotus says, when they're all drunk partying, they start discussing what should be done with Vashti. Now they conclude she should be banished, and we should make a law for the entire nation, for the entire empire, the many nations, that husbands should be respected by their wives. Because I guess that's the thing. And my question, of course, is, that fits in pretty good with Herodotus. I'm not the first one to notice this, of course, except that Herodotus says that they would go over their conclusions when they were sober later, and we don't really see that in Megillah. Maybe that's something the royal prerogative, not to have to be sober to analyze it. Or maybe Herodotus is just being a little exaggerating, because he also says that the Persians like to make decisions when they're sober, and then they would get drunk off their face to analyze their conclusions when they were sober, if they still stand. Now, on that note, l'chaim, l'chaim.